They tried to turn Beal into me. Jrue Holiday breaks his silence as Phoenix implodes. What happens when a coach tries to force one star to become another? When identity is stripped away and millions of dollars are thrown into a system that was never going to work? According to Jrue Holiday, it all ends in chaos. And in Phoenix, chaos might be an understatement. In a press appearance ahead of the playoffs, Jrue Holiday didn't just answer questions. He lit a match to the storyline that's been brewing in the background all season. His comments about the Mike Budenholzer-Bradley Beal fiasco weren't angry, but they didn't need to be. With just a few calculated words, Holiday exposed a deep fracture in the Suns' foundation, one that could force the franchise into an ugly, irreversible teardown. "Can you be surprised by anything now?" he asked the media with a knowing shrug. People get traded, crazy trades happen, a lot of coaches get fired, and nobody knows the exact reason. But Bud's sitting on a bag. That's not just a casual dismissal. That's an indictment of a system so broken that even a title-winning coach like Budenholzer was thrown out after just 1 year. A year that saw Phoenix nosedive into dysfunction, limping to a 36-46 finish and missing the playoffs entirely. But the real shockwave came when Holiday addressed why things fell apart and how he became part of the drama without ever setting foot in that locker room. After reports surfaced that Budenholzer tried to mold Bradley Beal into a Jrue Holiday-style player, prioritizing defense, selflessness, and off-ball decision-making, the tension between coach and star escalated. And Holiday? He wanted no part of the comparison. "I don't know what he meant by saying that," Jrue said bluntly. "Let me just do me and go out here and try to get as many rings as I can." Translation: "Don't drag me into your disaster." The Phoenix experiment, a blueprint for implosion. What Bud tried to do in Phoenix was always doomed. He attempted to recreate Milwaukee's structure in a completely different ecosystem. In 2021, the Bucks had a selfless core: Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Holiday, all willing to sacrifice, all capable defenders, all bought into one system. There was alignment. But in Phoenix, no one was aligned. And forcing Beal, a ball-dominant scorer with a fragile body and a bigger contract than resume, to suddenly become a perimeter defender and secondary playmaker was not just bad coaching. It was borderline sabotage. Beal's numbers, the 17.0 points, 3.3 rebounds, 3.7 assists, weren't terrible, but context is everything. He was lost, miscast, and humiliated. At the deadline, the Suns reportedly considered benching him, not for performance, but to manipulate him into waiving his no-trade clause. That's not a basketball decision, that's psychological warfare, trying to turn Bradley Beal into Jrue. Holiday was never going to work, because Beal isn't wired like Holiday. Holiday wants to guard the best player, Beal wants to get buckets. With Budenholzer fired and still owed $40 million, the Suns are financially trapped. They've got a core that doesn't fit, a coach who's gone, and a roster full of egos with no leadership. Kevin Durant is aging, Beal is untradeable. The only beacon of hope is Devin Booker, and even he's got one eye on the door if things keep spiraling. Make no mistake, Phoenix isn't looking at a retool. They're staring into the abyss. Beal's contract, $160 million over the next 3 years, is a ticking bomb. If they can't trade him, the Suns may be forced to do the unthinkable: buy him out. That's right, pay him to leave. The same Beal they sold as a Big Three savior just months ago. And now, with a completely vacant coaching position, no depth, no flexibility, and a locker room that was reportedly toxic, the Suns face an offseason that could rival any of the worst rebuilds in recent memory. Meanwhile, Jrue Holiday, the player Budenholzer tried to emulate, is chasing another title in Boston. Cool, unbothered, focused. When asked about the Phoenix drama, he didn't bite. He didn't trash anyone, but he also didn't hide. And that's where this story flips from scandal to symbol. Is Baylor Shireman quietly forcing the Celtics to consider the unthinkable? Boston's rookie revelation might just become the trigger that detonates a seismic summer shakeup. What if I told you that a rookie who went 1 for 7 from deep and barely cracked double digits in scoring might soon influence one of the most financially and emotionally charged trade decisions the Celtics have made in years? That's not just a hot take. That's the fire simmering under the surface in Boston right now. While the world focuses on the star power of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis, the Celtics front office is quietly monitoring a different storyline, one that has nothing to do with all-star nods or highlight dunks. It's about potential, it's about fit, it's about financial survival in a league cracking down hard on luxury spending. And the name stirring the pot? Baylor Scheierman. Yes, that Scheierman, the late first-round pick who entered the season with little fanfare, spent most of his rookie campaign bouncing between the G League and garbage time minutes, and now finds himself on the verge of becoming a key puzzle piece in Boston's off-season blueprint. On the surface, his performance against Orlando doesn't scream headline maker, but context matters. With the Celtics fielding a skeleton crew, Tatum, Holiday, White, Porzingis, Horford, and Brown all sidelined, Scheierman was thrust into the spotlight. And while the Magic clinched the 7th seed, the real story was Boston's rookie showing that he's more than just a bench warmer. He was good, said Joe Mazzulla post-game. But here's the thing, Mazzulla doesn't hand out compliments lightly, and within the organization, that good is translating into something far more significant, trust. And that trust is dangerous, because it might just give Boston permission to make a move they otherwise wouldn't dare to. Let's talk about the uncomfortable truth. Boston is staring down the barrel of a financial gun. The second tax apron isn't just a monetary penalty, it's a straitjacket. It limits trades, blocks mid-level signings, and kills flexibility. For a team with a top-heavy payroll, something has to give, someone has to go. And here's where the Scheierman factor gets controversial. According to Jake Fisher of the Stein Line, Celtics insiders have started viewing Baylor's development as a soft cushion for a potentially brutal blow: the trade of Jrue Holiday. Let that sink in. A rookie with one NBA start might soon serve as the justification to part ways with one of the most cerebral, battle-tested defenders in the league. A champion, a stabilizer, a leader. All because Boston needs to breathe under the tax apron. But is this really about money? Or is this the front office trying to spin the narrative before it explodes? Here's the harshest angle nobody wants to touch. Scheierman is cheap, Holiday is not. That's the real currency at play here. With Scheierman still on a rookie-scale contract and showing glimpses of versatility, off-ball movement, surprising rebounding instincts, creative touch at the rim, the Celtics might be seduced into believing they can plug the gap with system over stardom. But is that smart management or dangerous delusion? Is Marcus Smart's NBA dream turning into a nightmare? From Celtics cornerstone to NBA vagabond, the former Defensive Player of the Year opens up about a harsh new reality few saw coming. It's a fall from grace that no one dared to predict. And perhaps that's what makes it so gut-wrenching. Just a couple of seasons ago, Marcus Smart was the emotional heartbeat of a championship-contending Boston Celtics squad. Now, he finds himself adrift in Washington, suiting up for one of the league's most directionless franchises, forced to grapple with a jarring truth. In the NBA, loyalty is fragile, and reputation doesn't guarantee relevance. I've seen some things these last few years, Smart confessed in a raw and revealing interview with Mass Live's Brian Robb. Things you don't expect. Things you can't prepare for. His voice carried a weight that went beyond frustration. It echoed resignation. Let's be brutally honest here. This isn't just about being traded. This is about identity, dignity, and the psychological toll of being discarded by a league that often prioritizes potential over proven leadership. After being dealt from Boston in a blockbuster that brought Kristaps Porzingis to the Celtics, Smart tried to recalibrate in Memphis. On paper, it made sense. A veteran guard brought in to steady a young, chaotic core. But then came injuries, suspensions, and the slow unraveling of what many thought would be a Western Conference juggernaut. Smart never got the runway he needed, and before he could establish any rhythm, the rug was pulled again. This time, the landing was harsher. The Washington Wizards, a franchise more focused on lottery odds than playoff positioning, became his next stop. And for a competitor like Smart, who thrives in meaningful moments, that reality hits differently. Control what I can control, he he said, with a calm that barely masked the storm beneath. It's a mantra, sure, but also a coping mechanism. Because how does a player go from starting NBA Finals games in June to grinding out empty possessions in February for a team that isn't even trying to win? And here's the twist. Smart can still play. He's still one of the fiercest on-ball defenders in the game. He still has a voice that commands respect in any locker room. But at 31, with a contract set to expire next year, he's now fighting not just to win games, but to remain part of the conversation. "I'm one of the biggest competitors in this league," Smart said, fire flickering through his words. "Where, when, how? That's not in my control. All I can do is prepare." It's defiant, it's honest, but also a little heartbreaking, because this isn't the narrative we expected for Marcus Smart. Not after nearly a decade of sacrifice. Not after being the soul of a title-hunting team. Not after winning Defensive Player of the Year. Not after leading with toughness when others led with talent. So we have to ask, is the NBA system broken when it comes to players like Smart? Have we reached a point where being a winning player isn't enough if you're not young, flashy, or a 25-point scorer? And here's the spiciest take no one's saying aloud. Maybe Boston knew. Maybe they saw that the modern NBA wasn't built for someone like Smart anymore. Not because of his game, but because of his style. Maybe they cut bait before the market dried up completely. But if that's true, what does that say about the league? Smart's story isn't over. He's too proud, too driven, too battle-tested to fade quietly. Whether it's a playoff team making a smart, pun-intended mid-season pickup or a redemption arc with a surprise contender next year, there's still ink left in this chapter, yet the clock is ticking.